morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and start. I know we have a couple more people trickling in. How did everybody fare through the storm? Pretty good? Okay, so as you all may know, this is Resident Town Hall. If you didn't come here for that, then you need to go somewhere else. So we're going to talk about a few subjects today. We're going to have the introduction, general updates, employees of the month, the financial update, the dining update, and last but not least, the maintenance update. Cindy's not here, but I will fill you in on a couple of things that have been happening throughout the community. So don't beat me up at the end of that, okay? Employee of the month for here, Freedom Plaza, is Victor. Yes. Victor's a very quiet guy, but always works hard, right? Every time I see him, he's working hard. Assisted living and the Arbors is Grace Mongu. And last but not least, employee of the month of Plaza West is Maria Aguilar. So, I have a couple of updates to give before I call Dennis up here. After careful consideration and deliberation, some of the higher ups in the company, we have decided to reverse a decision that we made quite a while back, and that was for the buses, right? I don't know if you all were here when we brought in Dan Wicker from corporate, and he talked about taking the arms off of the buses and not using the ramps and stuff like that. So after careful deliberation, we decided to reverse that decision, and we are going to start using the ramps again for our buses. I thought that might make a lot of you happy, right? So I looked into some of the safety aspects of that, and also some of the literature. There are bronze ramps that are on the buses, and talking with Braun and some of the corporate people there, right? They do have verbiage out about the usage for their ramps, right? And some of it is kind of vague and it's left for interpretation. But the way we interpret it is that we can use it for wheelchairs and mobility devices, right? Mobility devices includes walkers. So that's why we decided to reverse that decision, and it's going to take place effective immediately. So on your shopping bus, the dinner bus from GBT, and also activities and stuff like that, you're going to start using the ramps again, okay? So just be careful still though, all right? Last thing I have to bring up. So at the front desk, we put several umbrellas out there, right? We put a nice little umbrella rack there at the main entrance with several umbrellas. They're all gone now. And I know due to inclement weather, people have been using them. So if you have one of those nice Freedom Plaza blue and white umbrellas, if you can just please bring it back and put it back in that rack, because you know the weather is going to be adverse for quite a while now, right? So, we would like the umbrellas to be there for the residents to use in case it rains and stuff like that, okay? I would greatly appreciate that. And last but not least, please, no walking in the circle. Raise your hand if you walk in the circle on a normal basis. I do it myself sometimes, so I understand why, but some residents have brought that to my attention again, and we want to create the most safest environment we can for you all, because I'm the safety coordinator here for the campus, so I really take that seriously, right? And I don't want to see any bad accidents. We've had several accidents where people have been hit by golf carts, almost backed into by vehicles. And that circle can be a busy place, depends on what time of the day it is, right? So please make every effort to use the sidewalks if you can, and it would be greatly appreciated. All right, without further ado, I would like to call up Dennis for his financial update.
Good morning, good morning. Time to talk some numbers. All right, what we're going to do is take a little tour through our second quarter. As I mentioned last quarter, we're going to start each quarter taking a quick look at everything. And this is a lot of the same information that gets sent to. You know, hear me okay? A lot of this information is what goes into the OIR report that comes out quarterly. There's a couple new slides you're going to see. We've had a couple requests from our finance committee to provide some additional information that I think you'll probably find helpful. So with that, let's just take a look at what we got. We're gonna start off looking at occupancy. Again, this is through the first 6 months of the year. We're at the halfway point. So you're kind of getting a gauge of, how the year's looking. As you know, and as I'll detail further, the biggest area we're working on right now is increasing our occupancy in our independent living. We want to get it back up to that 90%. The other areas are doing, as you can see, assisted living is doing well. We have an average of 81.4 units out of 83 for 98%. Memory care sitting around just a little over 90%. Same with the health center. But the independent living right now, it sits around 86.1. And in a minute, we're going to look at a slide that kind of details more about that, which is here. The one thing I want to say before we go into this is that the label at the top where it says 2024 Q1 and 2024 and Q2, those should actually be reversed. So the data in that first column is this most recent quarter. And as you can see, we're doing really great with the sales. I mean, we're over budget. I think the first quarter of the year, we were at budget. In the second quarter, we have exceeded budget. So we have a total of 27 closings that we've done in the first half of the year. But the biggest challenge we're up against, as you can see, is with the move-outs. We've had a total of 32 move-outs against those 27 move-ins. That creates, as you can see in the bottom right, a net loss of 5 units at the end of June. This also kind of gives you a little feel for what makes up those move-outs. The first 2 that you see there, transfer to ALMC, transfer to health center, that's what the CCRC campus is all about. We have the full team of care. We have all the different levels of care that are provided. So that's the normal process, is that when the time is right, residents will transfer to one of the higher levels of care, and 16 of those 32 make up that. We've had, I would say, higher than average number of deaths in the first half of 2024. I mean, we've had 11. So that, accounted for a lot of it. And then there's 5, you're always gonna have, I think we had 1 or 2 rescissions. That's where a resident will close and then on a unit, and then during their rescission period, like in the first 7 days, for whatever reason, they change their mind, and we've already counted it as a sale, so then we have to count it as a move out. So I think in that 5, there may be 1 or 2 of those, and then the other 3 are things like a resident wants to move closer to family, so they'll, they won't transfer to levels of care. They'll actually move out of the community and move somewhere closer to be with family, things like that. So anyway, with the occupancy, you can see that's the challenge we're up against. Is our goal is to level those kinds of move-outs. And when you have when it kind of runs at a consistent pattern, you don't get into kind of jerky movements where the occupancy goes up and down. But that's just a little kind of behind the scenes of how those occupancy numbers get created. In terms of our entrance fee sales, again, we've been doing well with sales. We had 27 against a budget of 23 in the through the second quarter. And refunds, we had 32. Again, refunds is going to count as a move out. So anytime you have any kind of a refund for any situation, whether it's someone moving out, whether it's one of the My Choice refunds, any of those count. And then the net attrition, which is the total sales dollars less the total refund dollars, was actual 7.1 million against a budget of 4.4. So again, that's all very positive. We're going to move into the actual financials themselves. Again, this is all up here on the screen. It can be harder to see some of this, but there'll be copies of all this that you'll be able to pick up later over by Stephanie's desk. The first column is the budget, second column is actual, and then the third column is variance. And you can see in terms of our total operating revenue, right now we're exceeding budget by $642,000. Again, that's through the second quarter, and every level of care has exceeded budget with the exception of independent living. Again, the reason there being because of the occupancy challenges that we're facing. But fortunately, all the other levels of care are doing really well and are able to offset to the point that we have a $642,000 over budget there. In terms of our expenses, you can see we've broken it out between, we have wages and benefits all in one line, and then we have all the various departments. I'm gonna make a note in a little bit to help explain up top where it shows total wages and benefits over by 334,000. In a minute, we're gonna cover a slide that explains more about that. So I'm gonna hold my comments off until we get to that slide. But the other areas, also there's gonna be a comment about the 80,000 you see on the food and beverage service expense. So I'll have explanatory comments about those in a minute. All right, and let's see, what do I want? Okay, so one of the things that the financials show is that we had $951,000 of over budget, so being a positive. So although our year-to-date net operating income reflects a favorable over budget by $951,000, approximately $650,000 of this is due to favorable budget variances related to general liability claims and favorable adjustments to loss reserves. Our corporate office will, they run risk assessment models and things like that, and they let us know based on their analysis if they're going to make a positive adjustment. Again, this is for things like if there's going to be liability claims, risk assessment claims, things like that. So and sometimes that can work against you. Last year it worked against us. So far in 2024, it's working for us. And so the reason I put that up there is that even though we are exceeding our net operating income in total by $951,000, $650 of that is due to a very favorable adjustment to those claims, and but meaning that we're still a good $300,000 over budget. The second comment I wanted to make is in regards, I was saying, to the wages and benefits. Although the financials reflect our wages and benefits are over budget by approximately $335,000, over 60% of this is due to Innovative Home Services, which generates revenue that more than compensates for the increased labor. They had a year-to-date net profit of almost $45,000. And the main point there is that a revenue-producing center like Innovative Home Services, it's variable. So if they go way over budget, it was because there was a certain number of visits that they anticipated in the budget. So if they do a lot more activity, then the revenue is going to go up, the expenses are also going to go up. So as a result, it causes the salaries for that particular department to go up. But again, it's compensated by revenue, so it's not considered to be a negative because they had a net profit. And then the final comment is that a mitigating factor in regards to our food and beverage expense is that approximately $100,000 of the expenses related to alcohol purchases, guest employee meals, and catering expense, and all of this is offset with income. On the financials, you have income in one part of the financial statement, and you have expenses in another. So even though it shows that our food, our total food costs are over, the costs that are associated with alcohol, guest employee meals, and catering have a income line that offsets that. So the main point I wanted to bring up there is that when you see that if they're $80,000 over, you see like the non-wage expense is over by a large amount, just keep in mind that there are revenue lines that offset that mitigate that overage. This slide here takes a look at our balance sheet. Again, very summarized. We get this from our corporate office, and it shows that as of June 30, 2024, our current assets are $26.4 million, non-current assets 116 for a total of 143. Current liabilities 15.7 million, non-current 125 for a total liabilities 141, with equity of 2 million to also equal to 143 to balance things out. This slide here covers, this is one of the things that our finance committee requested to be included. And I think it's helpful to make you feel good about the financial soundness of the community. What this does is takes from our OIR report. Again, there's 4 OIR reports a year, every quarter, and then there's the one fourth quarter is the big annual report. And we're required, as the OIR monitors all of these metrics. These are 3 of the metrics that I pulled right off of our last report. Occupancy as of 3/31, and then of course, it's always behind. So the next time I'm up here, I'll have the next quarter's report, which will be June. But as of 3/31, occupancy was 369 or 86.8%. Our minimum liquid reserves, we're required to have 10.9 million set aside. In our minimum liquid reserves, we had 11.3 million set aside. And then cash as of 3/31 was 2.5 million. Again, this is all data that is handled by our corporate office, but for the sake of your being aware of the compliance and letting you see the financial soundness of the community, they thought it'd be a good idea that y'all saw this as well. And then finally, as we move into the second quarter, already in August now, we continue to increase, our focus is to increase sales, to reach and exceed 90% of occupancy. As you might remember, we just got up to 90%, and then we've had a number of the transfers and deaths that have kind of some strong headwinds that we're running into, but we're continuing to move forward. Our sales team continues to perform excellent, and so we want to get back up to that 90% mark. We also want to continue to manage our controllable expenses, and we want to make sure that we are managing our labor, specifically overtime. A lot of attention placed on scheduling. Even our timekeeping system has some new features built in to help us manage things like scheduling, so that there's not wasted money on things like that. And with that, that's what I got. Any questions? Again, there'll be copies of this up at Stephanie's desk later. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis, for that amazing update. Right now, I can take the time to call up our dynamic duo, Chef Jamie and Teresa, who worked so hard here at Freedom Plaza to make sure you all eat good. Great.
Hi. First, I'd like to welcome Chef Jamie off of a really great week for Chef of the Year, so let's give him a round of applause. 1 of 5 in all of the LCS communities that were picked for this amazing event. And as you know, we did bring home the People's Choice Award. So that was awesome for those of you that tuned in. And Angie and myself and Mary Mackey had the opportunity to taste this wonderful dish. And I'm going to let Chef Jamie explain it to you and kind of give you a little surprise with that.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So this is actually a really fun dish to make this day because I don't know if you all watched it in totality, but we were supposed to go there, get a mystery basket challenge, and we were supposed to make 4 plates. Right when we were about to get the mystery ingredients, they're like, you're not going to make 4 plates, you're going to make 60 plates. And you have an hour to do so. And this is going to be for everybody that's in attendance, and they're going to judge you. So as if there wasn't enough pressure, let's add a little bit more. So I had a choice of either some beautiful like 1620 shrimp or these nice U10 scallops. So I picked the scallops. My mind started working right away, and I tried to figure out a dish along with this mystery basket challenge. The ingredient, I should say, they also gave us a big table of like produce as well. So I grabbed some sweet potatoes at the beginning. When they first introduced us to the kitchen, I saw that there were these little bottles of lobster oil already, which is a nice little flavor in there as well to kind of help balance everything with the seafood. So that was a nice cool little garnish later on that I put on there. Nice vibrant red color. And I grabbed some mushrooms, decided I didn't have enough time to cut all these mushrooms, so I made a duxelle, and the duxelle is pretty much just like a very small chop. I threw them in a Robo-Coup, kind of cooked them down with some onions and garlic, crisped up some bacon, made a puree out of the sweet potato. I don't know what I was thinking, why I did that, because that was probably an extra step that I probably didn't need to take, and it was, eating up the clock. So I thought the flavors all came together well, I used some cool spices that they had in there. They had some harissa powder, which is for like a roasted red pepper condiment that they use in like India and stuff like that. And then they also had espelette. Espelette is a pepper that's normally just found in France. So they dehydrated that and made a spice out of that. So I spiced the scallop with that along with salt and pepper, and then I added a little bit of harissa to the bacon, and I also put a little bit of chipotle and adobo in the sweet potato. So a lot of flavors going on in there, which helped me get that choice award. Teresa made mention of surprise. So what I'm gonna do is, I started prepping yesterday. I'm gonna run this dish as a special for the rest of the week, as long as you guys don't eat it all up on the first day. But so I'll lighten up on the spice a little bit, because it is kind of spice heavy. I'll lighten up on that, but you guys will get the essence of the dish. And thank you very much for supporting me, anybody that did, and I hope you guys had a good time watching it. It was awesome.
Thank you, Chef. I just want to say as well, while we were there and we were doing the judging, so what would happen is each chef would bring out kind of 20 at a time, and we were in 5 different groups going around. And every time we were moving, we knew immediately who, because I was tasting with Chef Jamie's wife, Katie, and immediately we knew which one was Chef Jamie. So she's like, that's definitely Jamie's. But as we walked through, everyone was saying, oh, did you taste that scallop? It's delicious. Everyone kept going back to the same scallop. So People's Choice Award, I think, is a big deal, because it's what we do. The majority of everyone there liked it. I don't know what the judges were thinking, but that's just me. After a couple glasses of wine, I was ready to tell them, but I decided that I liked my job too much, so I did not. But we are going to try for it in 2025. So we're going to keep doing some really fun specials in the dining room. Chef Jamie's going to start flexing his knife skills in the dining room and giving you some really great pops of flavor, which is what he's known for, is putting some really interesting flavors together. So thank you, Chef Jamie. This has been an interesting and fun experience, and I'm super, super glad we got to experience this. I forgot I'm the person holding the thing, so. Okay, so let's talk about menu rotations and timelines. As you noticed in the dining news, we have kind of been putting our head, as we've said with starting this program, that we're extremely flexible. I don't like to sit on stuff for a long time. If I hear enough residents kind of making comments on things and it works for the entire community, we want to change it. And if we can do it, I don't want to overcommit and underproduce, right? I don't want to tell you, oh, we can do this, and then we can't own up to our end of the bargain. But after talking it over with the team, we were able to change some of our rotation timelines to give you, to refresh some menus in our concepts a little bit sooner than later. Premier Dining, we will still stick with the 2-week menu. Due to the complexity and the amount of items on our menu, and if you compare us to the other communities that are going through this program, they have 1 concept compared to 3 that we have in our dining room, and they have far less selections. So we need to keep it at a 2-week menu cycle so we can keep the other 3 concepts going. The buffet menu, on the first of each month, you will get new buffet menus. With that being said, it will be the lowest attendant buffet that will drop off. So if there are 2 buffets on the weekly that I'm doing less than an average of like 45 at, we're gonna go back to the drawing board. But if every single Tuesday on Taco Tuesday, I'm doing 45 to 50 residents, it tells me that I'm filling the dining room enough to offset Premier Dining, so I'm gonna keep that. If it's not for you, it's not for you. Attend Premier Dining that night, but there's 45 to 50 residents that will like going in there. So we do have some suggestions from residents as well, as I put it out there. If you have suggestions and menu stuff, let me know. If you ever walk past my office, I have a whiteboard in there. When I get the suggestions, I write them on the whiteboard and then cross them off as we get them on the menu. And it will show up in one of our 4 locations. The sports bar and the American Grill, we heard you, 3 months is too long. You wanted to see more of a change. So every 2 months, starting September 1st, so we're gonna push forward the sports bar change And then when the grill changes on the 1st, so is the sports bar. The menus will be released in the dining committee meeting tomorrow, and then we will be getting those out to you as well. And it's the same approach that we have taken with the sports bar. If it's selling, if it's like the patty melt, that is a fast growing Freedom favorite. So a lot of you like to get the patty melt in there, but we did add a description on the bottom, make it a burger. As we've been saying that for the last few months, it's not translating, so we wanted to make sure we put that on the menu, make it a burger. So you can get just a burger with cheese and lettuce, tomato, onion, pickle will come with it. So you can have both of those options in the sports bar. There are some new things coming, a chicken quesadilla, which was a resident suggestion. We're gonna put that on the sports bar menu. We're bringing the pork sliders back. Those were super popular. The grouper sandwich is staying. So, the idea is to add and pepper in a few things, but while we complete or create this menu, it's based on what you're ordering. And if you're liking what you're getting, we don't wanna make too many changes to it, but we wanna add some new and, flavorful things in there like the shareables and whatnot. The American Grill, items that will change on the American Grill, breakfast specials, a couple of specials are gonna change. The lowest selling specials that we have will come off for this rotation of 2 months, and then we'll be adding in some fan favorites. French toast was one. Wait, where's the French toast? I'd like to see that back. Breakfast burrito was another. We added personal pizzas to the everyday menu. We changed up the daily specials as well. So those are areas that we are, all of those recommendations that we're getting are also coming from residents. So the more that you voice what you would like to see, it doesn't mean that if you say, oh, I'd like to see stuffed shells. I can't carry stuffed shells in a dining room rotation for 2 weeks, but I can put stuffed shells in the American Grill and maybe one day you do lunch in there. It depends on which concept it's gonna work the best in. So while we do appreciate those comments and those suggestions, we do try to filter them in one of our 4 concepts now. Okay, so I talked about this a little bit in Dining News last week as well, customizable dining experience. So how can this be achieved? First of all, we've changed our program completely. We've been talking about this for months. We've given you a great roadmap on how to navigate, but we are still having a small percentage of our residents that may be having some opportunities navigating the new system. If you are having opportunities and you need some more of a customized service so then you can understand how the menus work or how we can make this work for you, Chef Jamie, Pam, and I are going to meet with you individually. We've met with 3 residents so far, and we have yielded some really good results on this. And sometimes it's just sitting through and talking through like what your likes, what your dislikes are. For example, a resident wasn't happy picking up their meal off of the buffet every day because the buffet doesn't change. And I'm like, well, why do you pick up your meal? Well, I really like the view in my apartment. So that's very important to that resident, but that's not going to translate to another resident. So everybody has a different ask. So when we look at customizing your dining experience, we need to look at an individual, not a group. I have no problem going up against a group and getting a bunch of feedback, but the feedback for one resident is going to be different for another. You may agree with that resident because I would agree with my friend as well, but that maybe doesn't translate to like what I'm really trying to ask. So customizing your dining experience in senior living, it's all about tailoring meals to meet individual tastes, dietary needs, and lifestyle preferences. We have a few vegans on campus, but we have 530 residents, but I need to make sure that we're upholding our end of the bargain for the few vegans that we do have. We have some gluten-free residents. We need to have some gluten-friendly options, but there are residents that are like, give me all the gluten that you can. So I need to be able to balance that. We provide a balanced menu in our 4 dining venues that include both classic favorites, which is another kind of point of opportunity that some might think that we have, classic favorites and innovative dishes. Trying to give you an elevated dish and then trying to give you a home style dish. So we have to have a breakup of both on the menu. We have to come in and have things like spaghetti and meatballs and then also have a grouper Oscar. But then some might say, love that grouper, don't want that Oscar, can I just get the grouper? Yes, you can just get the grouper, absolutely we can do that, but you're gonna see it on the menu as grouper Oscar. Some may look at the menu and say, what is grouper Oscar? I've never had that, this is confusing. So we all come from different areas and regions, and if the menu is something that is difficult for you to navigate through, we're here to help with that. Personalization also will extend to mealtimes, dining environments, and allowing for flexibility in and where meals are served, whether it's in a community dining room, private setting, or in-room dining. So as I'm like, this is how we can achieve this. Everyone's different. Some residents love to just solely go to that sports bar. I see them every day. Some residents are like, I'm never gonna set foot in that sports bar because I wanna dress when I come to dinner. Some are like, I love the buffet because I can just come in and I can, leave. And some are like, I don't like to eat my big meal at night, so I'm always in the grill. What someone else that's why we have these concepts. And sometimes they intertwine where you are friends with somebody that maybe doesn't eat dinner but says, hey, I'll eat dinner because I want to eat with you that night. It's not going to be a one size fits all. We all have different eating palates and things that we like, so we try to offer you many suggestions. Another way to customize your dining experience is engage with the culinary staff to provide feedback and special requests for accommodations that can further enhance your dining experience, making it a reflection of your personalized taste and health. So while I'm not a dietitian, we are in independent living, right? You should be able to navigate the menu and look at the menu and say, like, if medically I can't have this because I am low sodium, if you need something that is lower sodium, let's talk about how we can accomplish that for you. But when we give you suggestions on that and we say, okay, soups, sauces, gravies, get a baked potato, not mashed potato, and then we walk around the dining room and we hear you say that the food is full of sodium and you're having soup, mashed potatoes with gravy, and extra sauce on your chicken marsala, I'm going to tell you that's where your sodium's coming from. So sometimes it's a give and take, right? We have to be able to maybe put sauce on the side, maybe have that baked potato instead of. And then also make sure that you are taking advantage of setting up a meeting with us. I have a very open door policy. My email and my phone number is in the book. Set up time with us. What we'll do is as soon as you email or you stop by to see me, we'll pick a couple times, and it's usually about maybe a 45-minute to an hour meeting. But we need you to bring something to the table, right? Not every day is going to be a home run, but not every day is horrible. So we want to hear both. There are things we're doing very well, and then there's things that we can do better, right? So we want you to bring your suggestions. We want to know what works for you, what your eating habits are, so then we can try to tailor the program to you. And what that means is we're going to give you ideas on how you can make your program better to fit your dining needs. So I hope that made sense. I hope that I see a lot more of you that are maybe have some opportunities with the menus and want to see how that can work for you. And we're setting up some meetings this week as well. So we're going to be putting the work in. And we're going to keep going forward with chef specials and stuff as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you for that wonderful update, Teresa. And because I care for all of you here, I am willing to sample those scallops first to see if they're safe for human consumption, okay? All right, so I know we were supposed to have a maintenance update, Stephanie. I don't know what happened with that. Sydney's not here. Sydney's on PTO this week. Down in Key West, having fun while I'm stuck here. Just to let you guys know, because of the inclement weather that we've had, the golf course, I think, is going to be shut down for the entire week. They have a lot of flooding on the golf course, and it's not safe to play golf out there for all you golfers, okay? Also, for those of you who like to walk around campus, over by Plaza West and Plaza Central, some of you might have noticed that road back there is flooded out, completely flooded out. I have it coned off. We don't want anybody walking back there because the water is too deep, right? We have some drainage issues here on campus that they're trying to fix. We're hoping that water goes down sometime today or tomorrow, right? So just be careful. It's coned off, it's blocked off, so just be aware of that if you're walking around campus. The front swing doors at the front desk, those are on order. I know we get quite a few questions about those. They're on order, and as soon as they get here, they're going to install those. They just fixed the sliding doors the other day, and they broke down again yesterday. Some of you might notice we had a lot of condensation on the floor. We put down the wet floor signs. So you all, please pay attention when we have wet floor signs down. Please pay attention to that. especially when the front doors break. We got a lot of humidity, meeting a cold front, and it causes a lot of condensation leaking from the ceiling, and the floors get really wet, and that tile gets pretty slippery when we have issues with the front doors. The parking lot resurfacing, first of all, I'd like to say thank you all for whoever has vehicles out in the covered parking area. I know that was a kind of painful process, right? We had some parking issues and things like that. So thank you for your patience, but that project has been completed. The covered parking has been painted, new lighting put up. It looks pretty good out there for all of you that drive a vehicle that frequent that very often. Looks pretty good out there. The resurfacing for the parking lot is going to be towards the end of the month when city comes back. That's going to be another painful process, okay? Your vehicle's going to have to be moved out of there. The city and I are going to have to determine where the vehicle's going to go. So once we do that, we'll pass that information down to you all, but the roads from Upper Creek down to the American Eagle Boulevard, that's going to be resurfaced. All the parking lots and our covered parking out here and everything is going to be resurfaced. So there's more to come with that. And while we're on that note, we did go from Swift Reach. Everybody know what Swift Reach is? Now we're using a system called Rave, right? They took over Swift Reach. The front desk is being trained on how to send out messages and stuff like that, so we don't have to depend on Lavinia or City to send out messages just in case in their absence. The front desk is going to be trained on how to send out emergency messages to everybody, so everybody stays informed on if we have a power outage or like for the parking, messages were sent out to residents about the parking and stuff like that. So those are our latest maintenance updates. Anybody got any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I'm coming. I'd like to know, the other day when we were in a tornado warning, no warning went out in Plaza.
Did you get a message, or do you have a cell phone?
I got a message from the county, not from the Plaza.
Okay, I will look into that, but for all you that have cell phones and stuff like that, you get the message the same time that we do. We get the same alert through the same systems, but I'll look into us sending out another message, a rave message to all the residents to let them know that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. What's that? So the question is how are we going to let the residents know how to get to the county? So if you can remember, I did a hurricane brief in June. We went over all that. All that information is in papers that Stephanie has. So if you want to stop by our front desk, give her time to get prepared for that. But we do have all that information in the hurricane preparedness, the HFL alert and stuff like that. Information in there.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you send out those messages, can you arrange it so it doesn't come through as spam? Half the time I don't get them because it comes in as spam.
Yes, ma'am. I'll talk to the city about that. Yes. The question is about the leaks that are like in the ceilings and stuff. That's a question for city to answer, but I think we might have a little bit of roofing issues that they're trying to resolve now. All that stuff is on their radar. I know we've had leaks throughout the building, right? You might see areas closed off or something, but all that stuff is on the radar and they're trying to handle it in the most efficient way possible. Yes, ma'am, there's a roof, we're on, yeah, there's some stuff right above us that they can have potential leaks. Anybody else? Yes. The handsome gentleman right there.
Hello. About a week ago, we had a fire alarm that rang unanswered or unshut off for 20 minutes or more. Can we do a better job with getting that shut off? It was deafening.
Yes, sir. That was brought to my attention the same time that it happened. I've talked with city, and we came up with some ways how we're going to rectify that situation. Because of the new system we were on, we weren't able to alert the residents in the appropriate amount of time and get that alarm shut off. But we fixed the situation, city has handled that.
Yeah, so the rave system is my concern as well. Why or how did it happen that we transferred from one system to another, but we weren't notified? And how was it that people were not really prepared to deal with it? There seems to be a lot of question around the community. We're not getting a lot of information, and being forewarned would help us and tell us what to do, particularly new residents. So we're used to getting more information, more memos, more advice before storms and events like that. So could you please address that?
Yes, ma'am. I'll address that with Sibby and Angie. They're both out this week. I'll address that. I think Angie's going to be back tomorrow. That's one of the things I can address with them. But I will say under the rave system, it's pretty much it's a simplistic system. It has like all these messages that are pre-written already. You just have to click on what message you want to send out, right? There's messages about water, emergency alerts about water, power loss. It's just like a plethora of messages that you can click on. And we do have the ability to edit those and add more information, as much information as we would like to send out to the residents. But it's a new system. We're still trying to learn it, and we're going to get better. You know, and if at any point that we do not disseminate information that the residents think are relevant to what they need to know, we apologize for that, and we will get better.
Well, can the residents at least try it out with you and for you so that we understand what to expect and you can tell whether or not we're getting the messages? Many of us don't know necessarily to look at our cell phones, or we don't recognize the incoming call or the number. So those are areas where I think you could make improvements pretty quickly.
Yes, ma'am. I know there's 3 different ways to alert residents, right? If you have a landline, you'll get a phone call. If you have a cell phone, it'll call your cell phone and it will send a text message, right? So it has 3 different ways to alert the resident of an emergency. Yes.
Is the sports bar ever going to be open on Sunday?
Well, yes, it is. No, I'm joking. That's a question for Teresa to answer. I can't answer that question. Teresa, what say you? She's turning her microphone.
Okay, yeah, at this time, we do not have plans for that, but we are looking at the numbers for Sunday brunch that are dwindling. So if we do open the sports bar, we would probably be doing away with Sunday brunch, because most of our residents are coming in and eating Sunday dinner in the grill, and a very small percentage are going to the brunch. So we have talked about that, but we don't know that we're ready to hit that jumping point yet. I just need to be able to, I can only have like 1 or 2 concepts open on the weekend because of the low participation numbers on our Sundays. So it is something we are looking into in the future. And when there are major like sporting events like Super Bowl or playoffs and whatnot, we are gonna come up with a plan to make sure that we are engaging on Sundays.
I think that we all might need better training on what to do in an emergency. That fire the other day happened in the apartment next to me. My neighbor came and knocked on the door to ask for help. I opened the door because I thought it might be the fire department. I had no idea. Something had happened in her oven and her whole apartment was filled with smoke. I went back to my apartment and called the front desk. Somehow my call went through and I could tell them exactly where the problem was. The person from the front desk was by herself, had to wait until somebody else could cover for her because it was a Sunday, I think, Saturday or Sunday, and she came running up. There was some confusion about what should have been done initially. Several of us got yelled at because our doors were open, but there was a reason. And we need some more specific information on exactly what do we do if there's a fire in our apartment? And who can turn off that fire alarm? Because she told us that they had to call the maintenance man who was on duty, and he had to come in from wherever he was to turn it off.
Okay, so the other handsome young gentleman sitting to your left, Mr. Cole, he put a lot of time and effort into writing like an emergency type manual here for Freedom Plaza on how to deal with certain situations, right? We do have that information available for residents, right? But during a fire, we ask our residents to shelter in place, right? Because this building does have things set into place. We have fire doors and things like that, right? We don't want to open the door because then you're making smoke spread out further down the hallways and stuff like that, and that's why the fire alarms went off. But when a fire alarm does go off here, right, the fire department will call us, right, because they get an alert too, because we do have a fire panel at the front desk, and they will ask us, is everything okay? And at that point, the front desk tells them whether things are good or not, and then that alarm is supposed to be disabled. We've done a little training with the front desk when these situations occur, and hopefully we don't run into this situation again.
I know that there's an emergency book because Bob handed it to me,
Yes.
but I don't think that most of the people here have it or have read it. And in that particular situation, we didn't know exactly what to do.
Well, not to be rude,
And-
but that sounds like personal responsibility. If I disseminate
No, I
information
think-
to you,
No,
you say you didn't read it though, right?
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I read it when I moved in.
Okay.
I've only been here for a year and a half, but I didn't remember everything it said.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that the instruction needs for all of us to be much more specific. I went down and talked to the people at the front desk afterwards about how perhaps I could have handled it better or they could have handled it better. I think that some of that responsibility belongs to Freedom Plaza. I appreciate that there's an emergency book, but I wonder how many of us actually have it in our apartments? And how many of us have read it?
Okay. I will have another conversation with Sibby in regards to that, and maybe doing some fire drills that involve the residents might be appropriate, so everyone can, you know.
Jeff,
Yes, sir.
I made a list the other day of do's and don'ts, and we could make a small picture, a sheet that tells people they can put it on their door. And you have 5 or 6 items that if you have a fire in your apartment, do this. If you have a fire outside, do that. And if there's, do a third thing.
Okay.
So I'll give it to you. I've got it all done.
You're amazing, Bob. Yes.
And the responsibility for knowing what to do when there is a fire situation needs to be practiced and trained and known at the front desk. And if we are told to stay in place till the fire department comes, that they will help us out, then that in fact is what should happen. And if that is not what is going to happen, then we need to be told otherwise.
Yes, ma'am.
Status of the liquor license?
I am not Teresa. Only Teresa can answer those questions.
Do you really want to know? Because that's going to affect a lot of people in a negative way. I feel like I'll be on an apology tour for that. Sorry, we have to charge for wine now. I did ask yesterday in my weekly call with my regional. We're the only community that I know of right now that doesn't have a liquor license, and I know that we were going to be last because we're the only community that has 2 separate liquor licenses, one for the course and then one for Freedom. We've reached out to our lawyers and to see like where we are at on the process, and I'm hoping to get some updates. And I'm going to say by the end of the month, because this has been a lengthy process. We haven't had a liquor license since 2022. But we've been giving the farm away since then. So I think that's not a bad thing right now, while we're trying to, they're paying us to bring in the liquor, so we're just passing that free charge down to you because we don't have one to charge you. So it's a good thing right now.
In regards to the emergency in case of a fire, everyone should have a yellow magnet on the back of their door that tells them what to do to stay in place unless the fire department comes or someone comes and tells them to leave. So if people don't have those little yellow magnets, they can see Stephanie, and Stephanie has those in her office.
Stephanie O'Fallon?
Yes.
You do, Steph? Okay. Everyone get that? So the question was, if there's a fire and it's in my apartment, do I stay in my apartment? No, you do not shelter in place if the fire is in your apartment. You need to get up out of there and close the door behind you to contain the fire. Yes, ma'am. So yeah, if there's a fire in your apartment, get up out of there, please. Close the door behind you so it won't spread any further, and then, of course, we'll be notified about that. Yes.
My concern is with your other emergency system, when you call the front desk because someone has a medical issue. Unless the residents have been apprised of the ability to bypass the marketing call, they're going to be hanging on that phone much longer than what should be. I'm not sure how many people here know that you can bypass the marketing information by pushing 0.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, by pushing 0. So we have an auto attendant system set up at the front desk now, right? The reason behind that is like we were being inundated with so many phone calls at the front desk that we contracted this answering service. It's called an auto attendant to pick up some of the calls, right? They'll direct you to Plaza West, the assisted living, and it'll direct you to marketing, right? So we're not getting inundated with those phone calls, and it eases up the congestion at the front desk with phone calls. If you want to bypass that and you don't want to listen to all that stuff, just press 0. It'll take you straight to the front desk, right? We also have numbers at the front desk that if you're in the house here, you can call, right? Like 1272 or 1222 are the numbers for the front desk, right? If you stop by the front desk, we can give you the direct number for the front desk as well. So if you ever run into that auto attendant when you call and you want to bypass it, just press 0. Is that it for the questions?
Coming.
Yolanda?
Now that Jeff, it's me.
Yes.
Now that you've converted from Swift Reach, when we had Swift Reach, there were some times that announcements would go out, but it only went out to the Plaza residents, not to the people at GBT. So will this new system include always going to GBT? I know sometimes they make the decision that, well, it only applies to the Plaza building, but that's not true because some of us come over here during the time that something is happening that is based on that announcement that's gone out through the Swift Reach.
Yes, ma'am. We do have the ability to pick and choose where the messages go out to. We can add, if it's something that's here at Freedom Plaza, of course, I think it is going to affect other buildings too, right? They need to know. So we can make sure it goes out to everybody. I'll pass that down to the city as well. All right, so thank you all for coming out to the town hall. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you at the next one, okay?